Welcome to another MiM26 short. This is April Kelly. Today, we are talking with Tim Cranton, who is a recent graduate of our MGH program. Tim, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. Definitely looking forward to the conference.
So tell us what you're going to be speaking about at the conference.
So I'm going to be taking part in a quick fire round table, and I'm going to be looking at putting forward a comprehensive 15-minute quick fire roundtable presentation. And I'm going to look at specifically paramedic and remote medical training, and essentially asking the question how we can make it better. I'm looking to explore how students best learn paramedic practice across 4 pillars of training. So I'm going to break that down and then critically examine the current models that we use. So for educating remote and expedition medical professionals. So then the session challenges the status quo that we have by analyzing kind of traditional versus more simulation-based training for austere environments, and then trying to identify neglected skills and then propose a restructuring to make things better for the student, better for the medical professional for true self-sufficiency.
And this was your master's thesis?
So yeah, it was definitely something I explored on my master's, especially when it comes down to these kind of 4 learning pillars, essentially those being the didactic side of things, so building up the knowledge base, then looking at skills, so how we build competence and muscle memory, etc. Then looking at simulation, so the simulation-based practice to bridge that theory and practice, connecting the brain and the fingers, and then the actual field practice itself and how we apply it. And for my thesis, I wanted to look at how efficient that was and how essentially we can make the training and learning experience better for the student, regardless of the organization you belong to. It was kind of as a whole and aimed at colleges, at universities, and I think primarily also at teachers and trainers.
If you had to pick one thing that we as educators are doing incorrectly that we all need to enhance and change, what would be the one thing you would advise the listener to improve on?
I think the one thing, especially when it comes to remote medical training, is not limiting ourselves to short scenario-based training situations only and not being afraid to extend them. So in other words, we can start off with the shorter sessions where we're getting students to practice certain skills, but not being afraid to extend them once the student gets used to that, so that they become more used to how things actually happen in a remote environment when resources are poor, evacuation is likely to be delayed. In other words, I think more of a focus on prolonged field care as opposed to short field care. Everything's done and dusted in 3 minutes, when in actuality it isn't.
Everyone likes to talk about prolonged casualty care until it's time to do prolonged casualty care.
That's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, again, in reality, I had an incident only a few months ago, and I sat on 3 patients for nearly 11 hours before we actually evacuated them from my location. And they don't teach that in the classroom. There's just an expectation that as a paramedic or as a nurse that you will just know, and you'll talk to someone and they will guide you through the process. But unfortunately, sometimes that someone isn't always on the end of the phone or on the end of the radio because just comms aren't there. I've spent last weekend at my offshore location with little or no comms because we had data outages. They were transferring from a new company's IT system to another IT company's system, and we didn't have that level of support. So it would have been back to the basics and having to manage these things yourself if something happens. So those things aren't always there. And I think that's something that we forget. What do we do when those things aren't available and we have to sit on patients for extended periods of time?
It's interesting that the UK Offshore Medics course doesn't ever talk about prolonged casualty care. I taught a few courses of the offshore course as well, and in the curriculum, there's nothing, and it doesn't seem like anyone cares.
Which is odd. I did a presentation at a medics meeting for my company last year with an emphasis on prolonged care. And it was actually really nice afterwards from my own, peer group, from my colleagues, them coming back and saying, you know what, Tim, this is never in our offshore medic refresher training. We do PHTLS, we do advanced cardiac life support, but it's always based in a 3 to 5 minute kind of scenario. We don't sit on our patients in learning practice for any extended period of time and go through all of the things that you talked about. And I think it goes back to this habitual short course way of doing things. We don't have enough time because time equals money, and either the student's paying for it or the company's paying for it. And we literally need to get the student in the door and out the door as quickly as we can with the minimal amount of kind of knowledge and experience that kind of keeps everybody happy. In other words, it tends to be more of a tick box exercise, and that's something I would really like to change.
Perhaps Quorum should design a 2-week offshore medics course, get it approved, and start running a proper offshore medic training program.
I 100% agree, and that's kind of where the intention as well of this rapid fire feedback session as well is, because I want to ask the people that actually matter. I want people to come to the table. I want the remote medics to come to the table. I want the potential remote medics to come to the table. I want those experienced practitioners to tell me what you want. What do you want from your remote, medical practice training? What are your expectations of training providers? What do you feel they should be providing you? What are you spending your money on, and what do you want for your coin? What is the most relevant for you in terms of your actual practice? And what can we do, especially as a college, what can we do as providers to give you the knowledge and skills that you actually need to do your job, but to do it in a professional way to provide the best, level or quality of service that you can. And that's the intention. That's all we want to be able to do.
Tim, I'm looking forward to seeing this at the conference, and you're going to be part of a panel of 3 of our graduates who are going to be discussing their thesis. And it'll be interesting to hear the input from the attendees and the questions they have.
I mean, in actuality, I have prepared a questionnaire. So I appreciate we are going to be on a short period of time. I've got a list of quick fire questions that I will be putting to people, and I will be backing that up with a questionnaire that I will ask people to provide so that I can collate that data and again look to do further research and add that to my research, especially as part of my PhD studies, again, so I can go back to the industry and hopefully make improvements for those people and for us as a whole.